Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cicilline is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to begin by thanking you for putting this resolution down for markup today, and wish to speak in favor of the resolution introduced by myself and Representative Young Kim, condemning the murder of Alireza Fazeli Monfared and the practice of so-called honor killings in Iran. I'm grateful to Representative Kim and her team for working in a bipartisan manner to call out Iran for allowing the abhorrent practice of so-called honor killings to continue to rob the lives of Iranians that dared to live freely, dared to live as themselves, and dared to love in spite of the consequences. Alireza Fazeli Monfared was one such young Iranian. Alireza was 20 and planning to seek asylum outside of Iran when he was forced into a car, driven to a secluded area, and callously murdered and left in a field. What's worse is that Alireza was murdered by members of his own family, who felt that Alireza had shamed their family for identifying as gay, that he shamed his family by questioning his gender and ultimately identifying as non-binary. The perpetrators then called Alireza's mother and confessed, telling her where her son's body could be found. Despite the killers confessing, no arrests have been made by Iranian authorities. Despite the rich and full life Alireza led, Alireza's mother was repeatedly told not to hold a funeral for him, because of whom Alireza chose to love. Iran would rather forget Alireza ever existed. And it's Alireza that brought shame. These murders are not done out of honor. Where is the honor in a father murdering his 14-year-old daughter, Romina Ashrari, with a sickle? Where is the honor in the legal counsel he received before committing the act in which he was told he would only serve a light sentence? Where is the honor in a family killing an 18-year-old pregnant woman, Somaye Fathi, by forcing her to drink aluminum phosphide? Where is the honor in a state like Iran that forced 19-year-old Fatima Barhi to return to her abusive marriage only for her to be beheaded for, quote, betraying her family? Where is the honor in a father beating his 22-year-old daughter, Rayhaneh Ameri, to death for arriving home after curfew? And where is the honor in allowing her to bleed to death over the course of 24 hours without calling for her assistance? These and the many other victims of these killings did not shame themselves. They fell in love, or they wished to flee abuse and find freedom, or they wished to live true to who they are. There is no honor in their deaths, only the shame of a state that allows for the gross disregard of human rights. Some estimates have found that these types of killings account for nearly a quarter of all murders in Iran every year. And because Iran refuses to supply those statistics to observers both in and outside the country, it's difficult to underscore just how many victims there are. With that in mind, this resolution condemns the murder of Alireza Fazeli Monfared. It condemns the dishonorable acts of so-called honor killings in Iran, and it calls upon the Secretary of State, the United Nations, and like-minded nations around the globe to publicly rebuke Iran for its failure to address the practice within its borders, to support efforts to independently gather statistics on the number of victims killed in this fashion each year in Iran, and to condemn Iranian human rights abuses against vulnerable populations, including abuses based on sex, sexual orientation, or gender expression. In 2021, loving who you want should not lead to your death. Wearing a certain type of clothing should not lead to your death. Attempting to escape abuse should not lead to your death. And the nation in which you live should not tacitly condone your murder based on a blatant disregard for human rights and the rule of law. I once again want to thank Representative Kim for working closely with me on House Resolution 497 and introducing it with me. And I also want to thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for your support of this resolution and on this issue, and I yield back.